Walk with me through the cellar door.
A storm is coming, Francis.
A portal to a more skeptical world.
Cellar Door Skeptics begins right now. Prepare for the revolution with your hosts, Christopher Tanner and Chris Hanna.
Episode 49. The first episode of the last year before we hit our 1 year anniversary. Chris, can you believe that it's been 1 year?
Yeah, I can. Times like that.
Yeah.
It's weird, but it's pretty nice and straight and linear.
Yeah.
Unless you're going fast.
Unless you're on speed or something, you know. You just heard the audience applaud us in this small little studio of ours.
Yeah, they're outside the window. They've got pitchforks and stuff, but...
Yeah, my neighbor's sitting out there. Speaking of my house, right? We're remodeling the house right now, so hopefully within 6 months to a year, we'll actually have a smaller studio that'll be insulated. I'll have all that weird foam shit on the wall, and Hannah and I won't have to sit at a desk. We'll actually be able to sit in like comfy chairs and shit to record, and maybe we'll fall asleep, so maybe we won't do that. But that's the goal, is to get it into that smaller space.
I call for lazy boys. 2 of them. I want cup holders and popcorn.
Oh, in an ice machine and a bottle of whiskey on the other side. See,
oh, man.
We can. You'll never leave. You'll have to bring a blanket with you.
A chilled Jaegerator. Can we get a chilled Jaegerator?
Yes, we can get a chilled Jaegerator. But speaking of my house, so I'm walking through. We bought a new fridge because my old fridge shit. And I had to get a new fridge, and I told the wife, don't buy anything super fancy because the last one didn't last very long, and I hate new appliances because of that. So there is a ice machine on there, though, and my kids love this. It's like the revolutionary function of this house right now. And they're able to go and get ice. You know how many times, though, Hannah, I've stepped in wet floor and ruined my socks or almost slipped and fall?
I'm going to guess a bunch.
Yes. So right before I'm walking in here, I'm making our drinks for the show tonight. And as I'm walking in here, all of a sudden I go, whoo! And I almost dropped both our glass of whiskey.
My dogs eat ice cubes, so if we drop something on the ground, I don't usually have that issue. That and the baby, if there's anything on the ground, my almost 1-year-old is on that thing, and she's like, what is this? Give it to me now! So, I don't run into that often, but I don't have an ice dispenser. I got an old school, boring refrigerator. My next house will probably have a nice refrigerator, but... I just put a new kitchen in. I'm not putting an appliance in.
Well, enough house talk tonight.
Yeah, that's the house podcast.
It is the house podcast. But enough about that. We don't need to talk about the house podcast or the garden podcast. And I already kind of sound drunk, even though we've only started drinking.
Yeah, we were planning. We got big events coming up here.
We do. We spent the last couple of hours talking about what we wanted to do for our 1 year anniversary. And we didn't know exactly where we wanted to go with it, what we wanted to do, whether we wanted to do a naval approach, which we learned is different than a giving approach. So we thought we'd do a little bit of both. So we're going to start the episode out next week, and we're going to air live. For everybody listening to this, there will be an event. Make sure you go out and look for the live show. And we'll post links in the description for everybody, so that all they got to do is go to the Spreaker page and you can listen to us live. We're going to try a live show. What the fuck, right?
We're going to spam it, too. We're going to be annoying. So everybody's like, oh, my God.
And we'll be like Johnny
live.
Brotherton.
Finally.
You're just taking old habits from Johnny and calling it a day. But
no, I want this to be a big deal. I want to see more than like 3 in the corner.
All right.
I want to see some good numbers up there.
All right, so I'll message 4 people for you.
You got some good friends. Everybody shows up when you message them?
Sometimes, yeah. Yeah, for at least 5 minutes.
Oh yeah, that's fair.
So what we're gonna do is we're gonna do a live show, and we're gonna air it live.
That's what live means.
That's exactly what it means, and that means I can't edit it. So every screw up, every time we flitter and flutter, you're gonna hear it. If the audio dies out halfway through, you're gonna hear a dead silence. So please don't rate the whole show in iTunes based on one episode, unless it's a 5-star rating.
well, they're going to be able to see us. Hopefully,
Maybe
too.
You're pushing your thing here.
That's the super duper hope. Like, we'll figure out a way to get something going, but we definitely are going to do the live, and we'll be trying to port that in as many places as we can.
Yes. And so what we're going to do for the 1 year episode, and if you want to add your comment to it, send us an email, or if you want to record something live, record something, send us an audio clip. I will play them. I can add all of that into the show. Anything you want said, even if it's the F word and Chris, I will add it to the show for comic value.
Yeah, I mean, just let us know what you thought, stuff that critiques that you want to make, and then you can always just make fun of my handicap or something, whatever you really want to do.
Yes. Hopefully not that, because I don't know if I could play I don't know if I could play albiism. Like, I don't think I could do that. But anyway, so we're gonna cover some of our favorite moments of the show, talk about where we want to go for the next year. We're also going to talk a little bit about how I want to get back into blogging and video, or not video blogging, but audio blogging. I don't know what the hell they call it, but I started from the vault, and I've only done 3 episodes, but I want to do a few more. Then they're a lot shorter. They'll be free to everybody. But I want to start that back up this new year in hopes that I can get a little bit of a ramble cast for 10 minutes to give everybody some extra content.
Are we doing like resolutions?
Kind of, sure.
Okay,
well, it's more about where the show's going to go. I don't care about your personal revolutions. Unless you're going to donate money to the Chris Tanner Fund, then, I'm all ears on that front. But we're also going to, because it's the day after what's happening? The debate. The first presidential debate. So we can't help ourselves. We're going to dedicate a full hour to having a discussion about the presidential debate. Hands down. Even if I got to cut everything else out except for 10 minutes of one and the hour of that, whatever we got to do, we are going to discuss, and hopefully with a special guest, a friend of ours, the actual...
Isn't there a couple, hopefully?
Maybe a couple.
Yeah.
Depends. We have some friends that we've enlisted that we would like to have a conversation with about
just
the
critiquing
debates.
The whole thing.
Yes. And so, anyway, that's all next week. We will post an event right on our site. Thank you, Pugsley, for entering the room now. We'll post it all on our website. We're going to post it all on Facebook. It seems like Facebook is the easiest way to get a hold of everybody. But if you want to add to the show, make sure you send us an email. Put a Dropbox, send me an email, do a Google Drive, send me an email, or just email us the audio clip, and we will play it on the show. Our email address is cellardoorskeptics@gmail.com. Make sure you send it over that way, or you can send me a private message, and you can find it. Now, this Saturday, we are going to be live. So I know this is a lot of announcements for the beginning of the show. I know. Hannah's already given me the eye. But we are helping out, and we're going to appear on Atheist Nomads, and we will have the link for you closer to, I don't know, probably Thursday. So this is Tuesday. It'll come, probably on Thursday you'll hear a little bit more from us on that, and we'll post a link about where you can find us. But we're going to be joining in a live show to help support cancer, and they're going to interview us, talk about Trump probably. And hopefully Payana will wear pants because it's going to be live on video. And I would prefer everybody not see that he doesn't wear underwear.
Just a thong, baby. Nah, we'll hopefully get on. We'll give you a useful part of the whole making everybody pay attention to cancer and benefits and anything that we can do to help out. Because that's one of the things we talk about from time to time is that we want to try to make a difference. And we're both so busy with our lives that it's hard to get something together to really push, something happening. And so I've been doing construction and everything on my house all summer, and you just got this place. So my guess is maybe next year might be a little bit more laid back, but we can actually try to get some events together. But these people, they have the time. They have the ability to set something up, and we're lucky enough to be part of it. So hopefully we'll both get on there. It'll be awesome, and, we can maybe help make a difference.
Yep. So, without further ado, tonight's show is going to be a little bit of a ramble cast. I'm very opinionated about 3 out of these 4 topics. So we're going to talk about the Dakota Pipeline, because I've held my tongue, I've allowed it to kind of play out, but now I got something to say, whether anybody wants to hear it. I assume that's why you're listening, because you want to hear what we have to say. And if you disagree with me, tweet at me at CellarDoorSkept, and I will be more than happy to have a conversation on Twitter about it. We're also going to have a short lecture about Mormonism, and we're going to talk about the Michigan beer tax hike and why Hannah supports it, and why Hannah supports Trump, because he's a Trump fan. And then to end the conversation, we're going to talk about Aleppo, because we all know Gary Johnson somehow does not know what Aleppo is, where it is, or anything about it. So we're going to tackle that towards the end of the show tonight. But to begin with, we want to talk about the Dakota Pipeline access, right? And for those of you who don't know, it's going to be a route, basically, I don't know, it says 1,172 miles long, 30 inches in diameter, and it's going to be a pipe that will connect the expanding Bracken and Three Forks production areas in North Dakota and Illinois. And so their website talks a lot about, what it is. They have these quick facts about how it's going to be produce and transport more oil, how it's going to be economically safe or environmentally safe, and how that they're going to be able to help protect the landowners. But on the other side of the fence, on the opposite side of the fence, we have an article from CNN that talks about the 5 things you need to know about the pipeline and about the protesters. And that's the whole point of this, right? The whole point is to discuss what we're going to do about it, why they're protesting, is the protest worth it, and is everything just kind of a little bit muddied? Do people have extra interest on both sides of the fence? And so we thought this would be a good discussion, because we're able to come out a little bit more on this topic now that we've got more facts to back us up. Before, we didn't have enough facts and I wanted everything to play out. Now we seem to have quite a bit of facts.
Yeah, it's been out. The story's been out for a while. We've seen a bunch of journalists, once the story hits and it starts becoming actual, not so much viral, but it's a popular news story that a lot of people were talking about. We've got some information. A lot of people have dug in and deep and done the hardcore journalism you and I can't do. And one of the reasons why journalism is very important, and even though the internet's free, we should support, small paywalls and stuff like that for some types of journalism, local journalism, and periodicals. So, but anyways, we are basically benefiting from all these journalists finding this information, and so we've kind of got both sides of the spectrum. We kind of feel for both sides, can feel what's going on, and we're probably pretty close to on the middle ground, as we typically are, leaning a little bit more toward the protesters and just forward progress, green initiative. And so that's kind of where I went from this. Is the initial story, I just immediately thought, okay, another pipeline. I hate pipelines. I'm so sick of the ancient infrastructure that we're building. Why build another pipeline that's going to get old and leak? That was my first initial impression, and I was immediately just against whatever pipeline they wanted to build. That was what I felt right off the bat. And after talking with you a little bit more about some of the stories and some of the backgrounds and stuff, I'm probably not quite that hard into the middle or towards the left, but I still don't like these pipelines.
Yeah, and so what they're going to talk about here is the fact that we have 7.4 billion barrels of undiscovered oil that they believe is in North Dakota. So what does that mean, right? Where do we want to go with this? How does this whole thing fit together? Well, we could take the environmental side, right? And we could talk about how on the environmental side, all we're doing is prolonging our own deaths, basically. Yeah. We're depleting the oils out of the ground. We're depleting our natural resources when we could be looking towards new foundations.
Well, we're not so much depleting. I mean, oil is a natural resource, obviously, but we're destroying the environment to get to it. So we're basically taking a resource. It's something that we really shouldn't count as a major resource anymore, thanks to technology and stuff. So we're destroying the environment to get to the resource that is bad for the environment. It's a bad spiral of decay and destruction. And that's the problem that a lot of people, you and I both, we don't like oil. We need it. We both drive cars. We both depend on the infrastructure, the current setup that we have in this country. And we've probably bought smaller vehicles, 4 cylinders, to get better mileage, to try to do a little bit. I would be very comfortable getting into an electric vehicle in the near future, as long as it can get under 20 grand. That's the big thing for me. But we both like to support this kind of stuff, and I don't like to see the environment getting destroyed. Or the opposite, the other end of it is the danger of spills. I think that's one of the arguments that a lot of people are putting forth in this case. Is the pipeline is going to be running near aquifers, important cultural water reservoirs, and they say we don't want that there. A spill could poison all of our water. And a lot of these people that are protesting in Dakota, they are natives. I mean, they're not Indians. They're not India. They're American natives. And this part of their, natural heritage, using these waters and the aquifers to, live on. And so they don't want the chance of a spill, which I kind of can't understand.
Yeah. And see, and that's the whole thing here, right? You're right. Why would we want to do that? Why would we want to transport oil this far to a refinery, right? Couldn't they just build a refinery up there? Maybe.
They still have to pipe it down here once it's done, so it'd be gasoline going through the pipe.
That's true. So that'd probably be worse. You're right. That probably actually would be a lot worse.
But yeah, right now in Alabama, there's a huge leak going on, and it's causing all kinds of trouble. In New York, Texas, and one other state, the governor's actually said it's a national emergency, or a state of emergency, because they don't have gas. People are freaking out and losing their minds. So,
see, and I agree, right? So you're right. We have to have gas. We have to have it. At this point, we're stuck with it.
Yep.
We could change that, though. I mean, and there's some candidates that actually support green initiatives that others don't. There is. Not that I agree with majority of their other positions, but they do support different areas, right?
There's a lot of Democratic support for it.
There is, but nobody's making a move on this, really. I mean, they're just putting a little bit more restrictions, a little bit. They're taking the conservative liberal route, if you want to call it that, the moderate. They're actually moderate conservative. I mean, there is some incentives for green energy.
And I would call it corporate. They're taking the corporate route. We're trying to get all the corporations lined up to where the corporations can make the money on this new market, as opposed to just making everybody benefit from it. They're trying to line up their chess pieces so that they can make money.
Yes. And so in building the pipeline, there is $150 million in sales with the taxes. They're going to create 8,000 to 12,000 construction jobs. Temporary, but they are going to create jobs. So there's money in this, right? There is money. Not that I agree with it, but there is money. But the one thing that they did is a tribe called the Standing Rock Sioux Tribe. They filed a complaint in federal court alleging the construction and operation of a pipeline will threaten the tribe's environmental and economic well-being and would damage and destroy different historical, religious, and cultural significance of the tribe. Now, just taking that little segment, and if we didn't do anything else, and that wouldn't be us, right, Chris? I mean, we are skeptical about everything, for fuck's sake. That's like my favorite word in the dictionary. But if we, except for amazing or awesome, those are two awesome ones, too. Anyway.
Amazingly awesome.
Amazingly amazing. Anyway, so if you were just to take that logic and apply that to the Christian world, right? Think about it. I think I looked at a survey. There's over 70% of this United States is Christian of some form. Think about if you're like, there's a big cemetery, we're going to run a pipeline right through it.
Yep.
Or, hey, you know what? The government owns all these national, not parks, but national military cemeteries. Why don't we just run it right through there? They would never do that. I bet that probably would never even come up as a proposal. So to the tribe's credit, I do disagree with people going after some of their land just because it makes it easier. And if they have stuff there, why wouldn't we have that conversation?
Why wouldn't we give them the respect that they deserve if we are going to respect everyone's, in the majority, special burial grounds and things like that? Like the United States, the people, let's face it, the white Christians, they have essentially ignored these types of things for any other out group besides their in group. So this doesn't surprise me that this is happening. This is just another tribal minority that's just weaker, and they're just going to do what they can, and money does what it will do.
Yes. And see, and that's where we want to go. Okay, so in all fairness, I do agree with them in that aspect. There should have been a conversation. There should have been a way that everybody could have won out of this.
Maybe they could have been included in the conversation.
Yeah. So what they're saying is they went after the senator. The senator of North Dakota disputes the tribe's complaint that the Army Corps did not properly consult them. He says if there is some way for the corps to work to meet the concerns of the tribe, they should certainly do that. But there has been a consulting process. If the tribe doesn't feel that has been sufficient, they can protest as long as they do it peacefully and safely.
And out of the way.
And out of the way. Yeah, he didn't
protest.
say that, but you know.
Yeah, you can protest. Go ahead and protest. You can stand over there on that side of the fence while we're digging through your burial ground. That's what's allowed. But since you're in our way, now we're really, really mad. And so that it turns into a national story where conservatives get super angry and yell at the brown people, and everybody starts getting bigger and bigger and louder and more angry.
And so they're claiming that they're violating several federal statutes that authorize the pipeline's construction and operation. They believe that it should be authorized the corps to threaten the tribe's environmental and economic well-being and would damage and destroy historical sites. So they talk about the two different types of claims. The first is they are challenging Nationwide Permit 12 issued by the Corps in 2012 in a pursuit to the Federal Clean Water Act. They say that they're going to cross hundreds, if not thousands, of federally regulated rivers, streams, and wetlands. So, okay, that's fair, right? I mean, for Christ's sake,
yeah.
If that happened, right? What if one did break? And we could talk about the safety of the pipelines, though I think that's somewhat irrelevant at this point. I mean, they can't guarantee me less than 1% chance it's going to, damage the rivers, and they also probably can't guarantee the cleanup of them. We're both from Michigan. We know what happened in Kalamazoo, and we know how long it took them to clean up, and it's still not clean down there after the fucking oil spill. And I swore, damn it.
You swore a couple times so far. It's just natural. Just let it flow.
So I can understand the apprehension. There is apprehension just on that. They also talk that multiple federal authorizations needed to construct it were designated areas along the pipeline, and one such authorization allows them to construct it underneath a lake, approximately a half-mile upstream from their reserve. So it would be like, I don't know, if somebody ran one right underneath Holland in Michigan and then dumped it up into Zealand. That would be problematic. They get their water from the Great Lakes, That would be very problematic if one of those did get ruined.
Yeah, it's and anytime you deal with infrastructure, there's no perfect infrastructure. There's entropy, right? Entropy is that one great thing that does an amazing thermodynamic deterioration. It's everything becoming less and less organized, or also known as degradation, oxidation, rusting, anything along those lines. You basically have, the pipeline going bad. You would have these things breaking down over time, and there's the damage of damaging people's water source. There's the damage of a small leak turning into a big leak, and in the end, when we see these types of leaks, it's just a small lake, it's a small tribe. Well, all of these tribes and all of these groups of people, they've been dwindling. They've been seeing lower and lower numbers. They can't replenish their numbers. This one little leak on something like this, one leak in a lake like this, could just exterminate this group of people from the face of the earth, never to be heard from again, never, rebuilding itself, a lost community. And regardless of your history or your dominating culture, the one that's winning, these people in their position and their natural, these are natives of this land. Their natural existence on this planet and in this country and on this land should be given some respect. And I would like to say that, in the idea of the libertarian government, the business and capitalism, it'll look out for the little guy. It'll look out for the people that are really damaging, and we don't see that kind of thing happening here. We see moneyed interest in fossil fuels wanting to get an efficient money-making pipeline, and they're promising us part-time jobs, and they're promising, better infrastructure and, I don't know, probably record profits for them in their fuel endeavors. And these are just nothing but dangers. There's nothing but potential catastrophes for everybody else that they're digging through their land. I don't, besides a little bit of a positive cash flow influx, I don't see enough positive benefit for them to ever be able to convince these people this is a good idea.
And they won't, because those people aren't profit shareholders of Energy Partners CEO, or Energy Partners organization.
That's
they're not.
Now, the ones that aren't natives are the people that are protesting, and part of this part of the whole protest, the ones that are really bringing it to the big internets and everything. They are part of the green money initiatives that could possibly make money if this pipeline gets shut down and people need green energy more. That's what you're saying.
Well, I'm saying that you jumped ahead. You jumped ahead a little bit, Hannah. So I am saying that. I am saying there is that. But I'm saying is the Native Americans are not able to benefit from that energy partnership, right? They're not going to get money. So why would a company want to bring oil from North Dakota down to Illinois, right? Because there's money in it. Yeah, we're going to put money back into the system. Yeah, we're going to hire all these people. But we're going to bring the oil from here to here because it's going to reduce costs than, say, bringing it from Saudi Arabia, right? We're going to keep interest inside. It's a win-win for Trump fans like you all over the place. and the problem is, though, and I don't know what the tribe would say, but the tribe's not involved in that company, so there's no money for them. Now, they do claim that there is, some archaeological sacred sites, and I don't know whether that's true or not. I couldn't find anything that definitively said, yes, there is, no, there is not. And if you have them, please send an email to us, and I'll retract it and bring it on here. I couldn't find anything, though. And the problem is, though, this is kind of a threefold thing. There's no money in it for the Native Americans. They're going to have a possibly ruined environment. They are going to have to dig up and destroy areas of land and bury pipes, and have all these other things. They are going to also disturb places they feel are sacred. Now, to me, if you have a site and you're granted through the government, and the government's like, hey, we're going to give you these 1,000 acres, these are yours, you shouldn't be able to run a fucking pipeline through it, no matter what, because they gave it to you. You can't take it back. It almost feels like it's America doing the same fucking thing it fucking did back in the day, right? What do? We came and took the land from the Native Americans. I'm sorry. It happened. They did that. And while I would go back and do things completely different, they weren't involved enough to understand how they weren't involved enough to be sympathetic. We'll just put it that way.
Yeah, no empathy there.
There
they
was
thought
none.
that people of different races and colors were less than they were.
They
less
did.
People,
but we have that now, right? Well, most of us do. Most of us have that. Most of us understand that. Most of us see these things. So why would we try and move through land that we've given to them to begin with? I don't understand it.
Money. It comes down to the corporate greed.
But how do we take that away from them? And if I gave you a $20 bill, and you're like, woohoo, Chris gave me a $20 bill, and you carry it around, and I come back later and say, here, I'm going to tear half that off. And you're like, it kind of makes it worthless because I need that other half to do it. That's what it feels like.
Or how about this? I'm going to give you a $20 bill, but the only way you get to keep it is you got to steal something from someone else. You know what I mean? Like, that's essentially what's happening is you have these big business interests, these people who are in the fossil fuel industry, and they're saying to their lobbyists, to the government, hey, help us out. We want to get this pipeline built. The government says, okay, well, you're going to help campaign our new, getting reelected and all that kind of stuff. Okay, well, we're going to get this legislation passed so you can get this pipeline. But also, in order for you to make me happy, the financier of your campaign, you're going to have to screw over the lives of a whole bunch of Native Americans. And then people are just like, some of them are like, whatever, sure, let's do it. I don't really care. And some of them probably have to deal with some kind of ethical issues inside, but they see the oil and the benefit to the American economy as more important than the lives of these Native American people who are directly affected and can potentially be eradicated. So this is this utilitarian thing. The benefit of the many outweigh the needs of the few. And that's the way they justify this capitalistic ideal of, infrastructure, money. That's the top of the line, because a corporation does, one thing. It goes out to make money. So they say there's going to be some benefit to the people. There's going to be jobs. There's going to be some money into the system. But there's got to be more than that, because a corporate's not going to do anything for an equal payoff, for equal expenditures to equal payout. They want more. So there has to be profit there. So they're going to get this pipeline made. Okay, you guys are going to get a little bit, but we're still going to get a bunch of money. We're still going to profit hard. Our investors want this pipeline made, and the infrastructure people that make money want this pipeline made. They're the ones that are really pushing for this to happen, obviously. And so on the other end, there's something like that happening as well, right?
Yeah, well, we don't know yet. They haven't come out and said specifically something else is happening, but it does bring a point, and this is where, when you look at all the negative things and I just want to be able to side and say, this is wrong, I don't want to do this, and then all of a sudden, here comes another individual. And I'm not going to say that this individual's tactic or what they represent is any worse than a corporation or a lobby. Not going to say it. Those words will not come out of my mouth. I don't agree with corporate lobbyists at all. I have a really hard time with lobbying, to begin with, because it's all paid off interest. But on the other side, we have a gentleman named Henry Red Cloud, and he went to the camp and he talked about what filled him with conviction and why he's going to go for a South Dakota Democrat candidate campaign. And what he's talking about is he's going to go ahead and he's going to run. And that's what he wants to do. He wants to rid the Republicans out of their seats on the Utility Commission, who basically approved this. So he's kind of taking the stance that, hey, you know what, this is wrong. They claimed, that they got all our approval. We just want to say in this, we want to have a conversation. What if they move it somewhere else? What if they do something different, so it's not so close to our sacred land?
So he's actually putting his person where his mouth is, so to speak. So he's running for the office. He wants to be representative for those people.
Yes. That's what he wants to do. And I agree with that. That's awesome, right? So he's now going to get involved. He's now going to do something different. He's now going to say, hey, you know what? Why the heck are we allowing this to happen? Fine. You know what? Our protests aren't working. You want to get rid of us. You want to push us out. You want to beat us, attack us with dogs? Fuck it. We're going to go right to the courts. Let's get rid of you out of your office so you can't make shitty decisions again. That's exactly how things should work. That's exactly how things do work. Unfortunately, in my opinion, they don't happen fast enough. But here's the shitty thing about this. He is a green energy entrepreneur, right? I just go, I love you. Oh, you're a green entrepreneur. And it's not that I care that he's a green energy entrepreneur. I'm 100% for that. I actually agree with that. But now you're mixing personal business with politics again.
Yeah, it feels like conflict of interest issues where my business is in green energy and I want to stop a fossil fuel energy business from succeeding. So it's like, okay, I get it. It says that this guy is an Oglala Sioux green energy entrepreneur, and he wants to defeat the 3.8 billion pipeline. But it doesn't really say in the article that you've got pulled up from pbs.org how much money this guy is worth. Is he a big wig, big money kingpin, or is he's an energy entrepreneur who stands to make some money, but he's kind of like a small shop type guy? Like, I would feel better if he's, a small entrepreneur. He's got a small setup and he's just starting to come. But if he's a big, chewing on the gold staff kind of, Scrooge McDuck, but the other side, like if he's, a really, really big kingpin looking to make a ton of money on this, and he's stepping on this to push out fossil fuel and make his more billions there, then it feels less. And I'd probably say that he's probably not, just because he's part of a Sioux initiative, and so like the Sioux Native American tribe. But that's the issue where it gets a little fishy for me. So if that's the case, so we just kind of have two corporate entities battling it out, two big giant kingpins of the corporate classical capitalistic ideals of America, right? That if that's the case, then unfortunately I hate the capitalistic free run, screw the little guy, few are going to make all the money. I choose the green energy guy if they're equals, and horrible capitalistic endeavors. Just because one of those things doesn't kill the planet. And then I have a little more time to possibly change the system so that if you have billions of dollars, you don't get to buy the government or whatever. So if this guy is a big wig, okay, I still will side with him because of the progressive climate and green energy stuff that he's going for. But if he's small, I'm all for it, basically across the board with him.
Yeah. And the name of the guy's organization is called Dakota Solar Enterprise. And we'll post a link in the description. It'll talk a little bit about Henry Redcrowd, his partners, different things that he's done. I mean, and he's won some awards. I mean, in all fairness, he's won a World Energy Global Award.
He won a White House Award.
He won, a White House Champion of Change for Solar Deployment Award. So his company's doing good things. The shitty thing is that it seems like in America, corporations have to exist to be able to fund and stop people and to get into politics. And when can we stand up and oust it? And before anybody goes, well, Trump, right? I'm gonna go. Trump's still corporate. Yeah, he made it. Well, he didn't really make it on his own. He inherited a lot of his money, and he's had how many bankruptcies? He has manipulated the system for years. He's two-faced. I mean, come on. Trump, yes, is an independent in the aspect that he did not run for either Democrat or Republican in any sense. But Trump, as a fringe person as he is, to steal from Dan Carlin, is not the answer. He's not what I would want. It's funny because Dan Carlin in his recent episode took some criticism for not supporting Trump, and because he's a big fringer. We have to get out of this segment here. I know, but he's a huge fringer, right? He wants that fringe element. He does not want the two-party system, and I agree with him on that. But he says Donald Trump is like getting served the birthday cake filled with nails because he got what he wants, but he's got to eat. He's going to bloody his mouth doing it, and he personally just can't. He can't support Trump.
Well, we'll talk a bunch more about Hillary and Trump and what I assume is going to be an absolutely apocalyptic meltdown horror show for the presidential debate next week. But for this one here, we pretty much we've hit both sides of the spectrum. We see the environmental groups; they're definitely trying to make things better. They may be tied up with some more money, but from the photos and stuff that we've seen for their page, I'm going to guess this guy's not worth billions of dollars because I saw him in a hat and a dirty flannel shirt. So that Henry Redcloud guy is a low-key dude with low money and just trying to make the world a better place. More power to him. I would just rather go green energy across the board. That's the way I'm at on that.
And I agree with you. I would say the more green energy we can do, the better off our lives are going to be. The less oil we have, the less resources we're going to waste. Because it's not like you could steal from the sun, right? We're not going to burn the sun out. And even if we did, it would be only, 1 million years? And that's okay, because it's a 4 billion year star. Anyway, we'll be right back with more Cellar Door Skeptics and Mormonism.
Hello, I'm Miss B. Haven.
I'm Demanda Wright.
And we're promoting secular feminism.
And you're listening to Cellar Door Skeptics.
What's something I could do with a very sexy lady friend of mine that people would find provocative, interesting, and entertaining enough to tune in week after week? Oh, I know. A podcast. If you'd like to hear me and Kate be provocative and thought-provoking week after week, join us on the Unbuckling the Bible Belt podcast. We'd love for you to be part of our audiological three-way.
Looking for something new and exciting, or maybe just a change from the old atheist show format? Cellar Door Skeptics Podcast provides listeners with hours of enjoyment each week on Spreaker and iTunes. Check us out as we talk politics, religion, science, reviews of books and music, along with the occasional interview just for a twist. Join Christopher Tanner and Chris Hanna every Tuesday night at 8 p.m. Eastern as they bring fresh content to you. Walk with us through the cellar door as we help you prepare for the revolution. You can find us on Spreaker, iTunes, YouTube, and even on Facebook.
Hey, this is Keith.
And this is Jen, and we're from Not Another Atheist Podcast.
You're listening to Cellar Door Skeptics.
Join the revolution.
and welcome back to Cellar Door Skeptics. Well, after that very passionate, if we want to call it that, passionate discussion.
It got there a little passion. There was a little bit of feels.
Yeah. And after we got through some of that, we're now going to talk about Mormonism. But actually, we're not going to, because we have a good friend, somebody who has worked with us for a long time.
He was on the show not too long ago.
He was on the show, I think, about 6 episodes ago to talk about... Fuck, I don't remember what he was on to talk about.
We were talking about the crazy lady's book.
Ah, that's right, that's right. We were the lady that didn't come on. And he was on before that when we debunked a Prager University video. So, Joseph Casper was a lifelong Mormon until he hit his teens. And then he came out, but he lives right in dead heated Mormon country. So he doesn't live quite in Utah. He lived right on the border, but his town and where he lives is very fundamental. So they're not just your average down the street Mormons.
He's near the FLDS.
Yes.
So there's the Latter-day Saints, and then there's the fundamental Latter-day Saints.
Yes, that's what I just said.
Yeah,
you're just repeating what I said.
Okay. Well, I did. People have heard the weird acronyms or whatever, but
okay.
He was my co-host when I did the Heretical Minds thing, and he actually was like, I might have to miss an episode because he got jumped in the streets. Like, actually, they attacked him, fought him, punched him out just because he was himself in his hometown. I mean, that's how intense it is then.
Yeah. And see, and that's the thing is we feel bad, but he has offered to step up to the plate and do a little bit more to debunk Mormonism. And I believe he's been working on a book. He's working on his bachelor's degree in psychology. He's doing all these great things. And you know, now that he doesn't do the show, we have to have him on every once in a while because he's a great friend to talk with. But the big thing here is that we're able to look at Mormonism from an inside perspective. So we have a 10-minute clip that we want to play here for you that is very, very inspirational. And within a week, I have a video. I promise I'll get the video up because I have a Trump video I got to get up to. But I got a video. I put like fancy visuals and all sorts of things.
It's snazzy
with this. It is. It's almost as nice as my Satanism video that I have to go ahead and edit together too. See, I promised a Satanism video, and what did we do 2 weeks ago? We played the Satanism thing. We haven't done a damn thing with it since 5 weeks ago. I haven't had time to get through that. But maybe if you want to help create time, go over to Patreon, donate a little bit of money so I can outsource some of these videos to somebody that has more time than I do. So, but anyway, without further ado, we want to talk about Mormonism. And who better to talk about that than our dear friend, Joseph?
You're talking about Mormonism. One of the things that you really kind of have to understand is that they do not have the same system of beliefs as, say, your regular Christian. Mormonism comes from the idea that ancient Jews literally settled the United States. That's who the Native Americans are. That's according to Mormonism beliefs. Also understand that Mormonism is a slur. No Mormon considers themselves really to be a Mormon. They're aware of the slur, but they don't really call themselves that. The church's official name is the Church of Jesus Christ of Latter-day Saints, titled such because of the emphasis on the teachings of Christ. That said, Mormons do not accept things like original sin. Original sin is a pretty common concept within Christianity, but Mormons do not accept that children are born damned. In fact, they believe that any child, regardless of baptism or acceptance of Christ, who dies before the age of 8 is instantly accepted into heaven. So that's just one example of how they're different than maybe like a Catholic who need baptism in order to go to heaven, even if they're babies. So that's just one example. They also do not adhere to a strong inspiration or sight of the crucifixion. So you'll never see a Mormon with, say, a crucifix around their neck. They are inspired by the act, but they don't believe that was the act that paid for man's sins. Foundationally, their belief is that in the Garden of Gethsemane, Jesus Christ bled from every pore, and as such paid for the sins that all men would commit. That means that they see all human beings as officially flawed. They're essentially not perfect enough to get into heaven. So because human beings are essentially flawed, they require the gift of Christ's suffering in the Garden of Gethsemane by bleeding of every pore to get into heaven. It is a common misconception that it is part of Mormon doctrine to avoid chemical substances, smoking, for example, or caffeine. That's a pretty common misconception. They believe that you should avoid those things. That's part of what's called the word of wisdom. But that is, you're not going to be excommunicated, or even, I don't even really think that they consider it a sin necessarily to use those substances. My father, for example, was a Mormon practicer, and he's a big-time Pepsi drinker. So he imbibes caffeine heavily, despite the fact that that is against the word of wisdom. It is not necessarily considered a sin, and so a practicer may do that sort of thing. They don't drink. They don't normally do drugs. They are about as squeaky clean as you can possibly be. Mormonism is, in and of itself, foundationally based upon the idea that families can live together forever. And from that perspective, it makes a lot of sense. Not sense in the sense that it is rational, but sense is in the sense that it's understandable why people would want to be part of it. Basically, the teachings of their gospel is that you'll get to spend forever with the people you love, the people in your family, and they have a strong emphasis on the family as a result. They have what's called family home evening, where every Monday night the family gets together and they give each other love and support. There's activities. The Mormon Church is heavily involved in, say, the Boy Scouts of America, which kind of leads me to what they believe in regards to the afterlife. Some Christians are annihilationists. They believe that if you don't accept Christ, you don't exist. Some believe in a hierarchy of afterlife, heaven and hell and purgatory, or some don't have that. But Mormons do not have any of that. All of that is basically nonsense to a practicing Mormon. Mormons do not believe in hell, or rather, they don't believe that you or I have the ability to go there. We lack the capacity. They call it outer darkness, and the only means by which a person can go there is if they are a prophet with the truth of God, and they deny the truth of God after having attained the knowledge of a prophet of God. Okay, so individuals who might have gone to such a place in Mormon belief are like Judas, who betrayed Christ. So that's just one example. Cain might be another. Secondly, they believe in a three system for afterlife. They have what's called different kingdoms of glory. One kingdom is supposed to basically be just like Earth. So if you die, you get to go to a place that's pretty much just like Earth. It's called the terrestrial kingdom. Then there's a place that's supposed to have the glory of the light of the moon. It's called the telestial kingdom. And then you have what's supposed to have the glory of the sun. It's called the celestial kingdom. Within the celestial kingdom, those who are married in Mormon practice, these basically people who lived as close to a godlike life as they can possibly live and were married to a spouse and had children and all the things that Mormons expect from each other. These individuals, according to Mormon belief, get to learn from God how to be a god and will be given their own world with spirit children whom they will be gods for. This is not a joke. That's literally what they believe word for word. So they are practicing in that idea that essentially this is school for becoming God. That's what they see life as. It's one of the reasons they live so squeaky clean. Some things about the LDS church as it's practicing now is they have denied things like polygamy. They used to be practicing polygamists based because of people like, prophets in the Old Testament who had many wives, so that used to be a part of their church practice. But when Utah wanted to become a state, they just dissolved the practice so that Utah could become a state, although there are still sects of Mormons kind of similar to the Amish for mainstream Christians who still practice polygamy to this day. Those are called the fundamentalists. People like Warren Jeffs, who takes 5- and 6-year-old wives and marries old men to little girls. That's what's going on in those convents. They need to be dealt with, and we need to that's one of the reasons why I wanted to do this show, actually, is because that is a very serious problem. The issue that Mormonism really has, worse than I think most Christians have, is that they aren't based off of doctrine. They do have doctrine, but you don't get the Word of God from a book in Mormonism. They have books, and you can get it from them, but that's not the primary source. Mormonism has a practicing prophet, a man who claims to be as Abraham or as Moses, a man who is essentially a prophet speaking for God. Okay? That's one of the reasons I would caution anyone who wants a Mormon in public office. When Mitt Romney ran for president, I gasped for air pretty frequently, because this was a man who believed that another man spoke for God. And when I say spoke for God, I don't mean is inspired by God. I mean literally God speaks to him, and he is God's mouthpiece. Okay, there are places in the temples that they build where the prophet literally goes to commune and talk to God. Not figuratively, not through inspiration. They believe that God actually is talking to this man. Okay, so that is something you need to, if you're going to talk about Mormonism, you have to understand that these men, the men who claim to be prophets, the Mormons really do believe that God is talking to him. It's not metaphorical, it is literal. So that's one of the reasons I suppose I would argue that Mormonism is essentially a cult. There's no basis for critical thinking. If this man tells you to do something, it's an order from God. It's not. There's no argument. It's not. It's not up for debate. God has given you a command. So that's one of the dangers of the side groups, the FLDS, the fundamentalists, is their leaders, men like Warren Jeffs, are literally considered to be speakers of God. They talk for him. They are his prophet. As for mainstream Mormonism, it's actually considerably different. He is still the mouthpiece for God, but he really is just the oldest surviving member of the quorum of the 12 apostles. Mormonism is separated. They believe to be the same organization that Christ set up on earth. They have the position of Christ or the prophet. Okay, they have, and what's underneath him is the 12 apostles, much the same as Christ's apostles. That's how it's set up. They have, and of course they have other books too. They have what's called the Doctrine and Covenants, the personal musings of Joseph Smith, the founding prophet, and the Pearl of Great Price. That it's from scrolls that he supposedly uncovered while searching for treasure. That's kind of the whole thing.
And there you have it. Our mini Mormonism lecture, if you want to call it, from our dear friend Joseph. And I promise I will get the video up on our YouTube page within a month. I just got to edit a few things, make it proprietary so that we can put it up and not get flagged on YouTube, because all this music keeps getting flagged. But when we come back, we're going to be talking about the Michigan beer tax and why Trump supporters like Hannah love it. We'll be right back with more Cellar Door Skeptics.
Hey, my name is Wesley. I'm from the Atheist Nomads podcast. Kick back a while and listen to my friends on the Cellar Door Skeptics.
Hi, I'm Ron Reagan, an unabashed atheist, and I'm alarmed by the intrusions of religion into our secular government. That's why I'm asking you to support the Freedom from Religion Foundation, the nation's largest and most effective association of atheists and agnostics. working to keep state and church separate, just like our founding fathers intended. Please support the Freedom from Religion Foundation. Ron Reagan, lifelong atheist, not afraid of burning in hell.
If you guys like what you're hearing on Cellar Door Skeptics, please consider sponsoring us on our Patreon page. Our goal at Cellar Door Skeptics is to help promote more science, skepticism, secularism, and humanism in the world. We want to create better content for our podcast and for you, the listener, all while trying to help promote local activism. We're going to strive to make better podcasts, and I'll tell you what, we're even going to contribute some of the proceeds to charity. So please join us over at Patreon.com/Cellar Door Skeptics to make sure that you sponsor us for as little as $1 an episode. Thank you guys so much, and prepare for the revolution.
Hey, what's up? I'm Steve Hayes.
And I'm Dave Curry.
And we're from Prophetcast.
And you're listening to Cellar Door Skeptics
on the Fox News Network.
They're not affiliated with Fox.
Everyone's a Fox affiliate.
Now, back to the show.
Beer tax would increase more than 200% under this Michigan bill. We're back with Cellar Door Skeptics to talk about, and yes, I muted my mic this time, Hannah, after my half-hour rant that I'm now re-ranting.
It's gone. It's gone forever.
I did. I lost audio. Fucking podcasting.
He's shaking. He's so pissed off.
Anyway, Michigan tax under Tom Hooker from Byron Center, and yeah, he's a Republican, wants to increase beer taxes. 5% per 12-ounce can.
It's proof. It's finally completely and openly out. Republicans hate fun. They just do.
Yeah, I'm Republican and I don't want taxes because I don't want to regulate businesses. But I'm going to send this one through because I want to up the price to $21.70 per barrel.
Well, I mean that's
insane.
That's the thing. Well, like it used to be $6. Oh wait, no, it's currently $6.30 per barrel, and so they would raise the tax to $21.70 per barrel. So the overall price of the barrel, whatever, the increase is basically going from $6.30 to $21.70 per barrel. So that's the 200 and something % increase that we're looking at. So this is an amount of money that's going to be what? It's going to be levied on to the corporations, right? This is going like, okay, if you're a beer brewer in Michigan, how are you getting the tax, or is it like another sales tax that's, hey, Chris Tanner, you're buying a 6-pack because Chris Hanna's coming over and he drinks beer and you don't drink it at all. So are you paying the tax, or is this the corporations that are doing it?
No, if you look at the actual bill, and we'll include the link in the description, the bill actually talks about passing it on to the brewer or to the manufacturer, the distributor that is bringing it into the state. So the beer manufacturer outside of the state that's sending it to Michigan. So let's say Ohio has Whitecaps beer, they're sending it to us, right? They got to pay the tax, or the wholesaler pays the tax. And if the wholesaler agrees to pay the tax, then the brewer has to provide actual documentation that has happened. And if the manufacturer cannot prove it, they're going to get billed the tax for it.
So it's just doubling it up then. Michigan's going to be loading up like twice or nothing, babe.
Yeah, basically. And so, while normally I am very pro taxing the fuck out of corporations, in this instance I'm not. And it's not because I don't want more tax, right? I want more tax in some aspects, but I want more justified tax. I'm not just going to have a tax just for a fucking tax. You don't just get a tax to bring it about to say, hey, we're going to take more money. That's illogical. It'd be like if I handed you a $20 bill, right? And then I came later and I'm like, I'm going to cut half that in half, and I'm going to cut it in half again and give you half of it back. I'm still taking a portion. And you're like, well, where's the right? What are you going to do with that portion of that $20 bill? And I'm like, I don't know. It's going to go here. And so, in
extra points to anyone who realizes that we just used that exact same analogy when we talked about the Dakota Pipeline.
I did it on purpose. I reconnected it. It's called bringing it all together, Hannah. You just don't have that talent, I guess.
It's all good.
Anyway, but if you had that portion of that money, and what are you going to do with it, right? And so, if I had to give that portion of the money away, I would want to know where it's going to go. So, for example, we'll use an example, personal experience here, right? We'll throw that in there. In Jenison, when I lived there, they wanted to raise the homeowner's tax by X%, which constituted for $216 a month, and that was $25 a year. That's all. So I had to pay $25 more a year to live in the house I own in Jenison to the school system. And now if they were to come to me and say, well, we don't know what it's for, then I'd be like, fuck you. Why would I do that? But they came and said, hey, we're going to provide this multi-million-dollar state-of-the-art facility for your kids to play music and sing in.
Yeah.
Well,
I'm
okay.
game. Yeah, 100%. Like, that's the thing for me on taxes and stuff like this. It's got to be spelled out what it's going to be for, because we all hear these stories about the government being incredibly inefficient, just not doing what it's supposed to do, not taking care of anything. And so we have problems, there's money just disappearing. The Pentagon is like, oh, we just lost $8 billion. No big deal. It's just defense, right? But all that kind of stuff, as long as the government is taking care of what it's supposed to, state governments, obviously, local governments, just keep tabs on what's going on. If they're going to raise a beer tax and they're going to use that for schools and stuff, okay, that's cool. That's a good thing. But once again, we've heard that story before. We've heard we got this lottery thing and we're going to take all this money and we're going to use it to make all these schools great. Well, go ahead and tell the schools in Detroit that their gymnasiums look like waffle irons. There's a pipe burst underneath it. It's just the money is said to go somewhere, but unless it's written in stone and locked in place, they will mooch it and steal it and sling it to places with their district that they represent, that they want to make better, and they'll steal it from places that really do need it. And so I want this money locked down and in place to good and useful purposes, as opposed to just the general fund that politicians can use whatever they want.
And it would be like if we looked at Jennifer Graham home, right? And what did she do with the state lottery tax? She instituted state lottery tax, said, hey, I'm going to bring in this millions of dollars, blah, 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 blah. And guess what? She then defunded school systems because this other money was coming in.
It's a weird thing for a Democrat to do.
It is, but it's Michigan, for fuck's sake.
I
don't know what to tell you.
It's
we got hookers.
Bizarro world, man.
Yeah, we got Republican hookers, voting to increase taxes. We got Democrats robbing from the tax pool. I don't know what to tell you. Yeah. It's Michigan. But my problem here is if we focus singly just on this issue, if we just focus on this issue and say, you're going to raise taxes, are you going to tell us where it's going to go? He does. He does tell us where it's going to go. So let's look at where these are going to go, right? So the first place it's going to go, 60% of this is going to go to a place called the Office of Recovery-Oriented Systems of Care and the Department of Health and Human Services for Substance Use Disorder Treatment and Rehabilitation Facilities.
Name of a group I have ever seen.
I just lost my energy having that conversation. But 60% is going to go to that. And they have a website. We'll link it in the description. They have a ton of statistics, all sorts of numbers and dollars and cents and blah, 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 where they talk about all these different things. So when we look at that and we look at, okay, so why would he put that much money? Because there's nothing in there outside of a 7% that stands out. There is a 7% that's going to go to private organizations that provide substance abuse, use disorder prevention services, and substance use disorder treatment and rehab facilities.
That sounds like a government subsidy for the local church and the AA program to me. I'm uncomfortable with that being one of the purposes that they're going to do. Private organizations, and who's going to say that, oh, are you religious? Or does this AA program make you forcefully say, oh, I submit to a higher power?
Exactly. And so we don't know where that goes. I don't know where the department is. I didn't go through it. I didn't do it because it's only 7%. Because in the end, 60% of this is going to one place. So they talk about giving money to veterans. They talk about giving money to law enforcement, to the prison system, which I don't agree with, but they talk about that too. They talk about something called ignition interlock. Don't know what the hell that is. They talk about infrastructure remodeling, which sounds like they want to pay for roads out of this. Dude.
I was going to say the interlock thing is like there's something wrong with your car.
Yeah. They want to talk about, preventional services and education, right? But the highest hitter is at 60%. That 60% is going to that one organization.
A massively named group. So what do they do? What do they do?
Well, I don't know, Hannah. You tell me. What they do is they say they provide treatment services for substance abuse or gambling for you, a family member, or a friend. And you're like, okay, that seems crazy. But they talk about prevention services. They talk about treatment. They talk about recovery options. So they're in the midst of this whole thing. So they're the board that basically says, this is what goes. For example, they have a 17th annual substance use and co-occurring disorder conference. Probably going to be beneficial. I wouldn't go because that's not my field. But it sounds beneficial, right? And they run a bunch of different studies. So they actually have a report that I found that goes through all the statistics.
Okay, come on, let's give it a shot.
I'm not going to give it a shot because it's too late to... Okay, fine. Michigan Epidemiological Profile. There you go. I said that.
That's
Did
pretty
you hear
good.
that shit?
The E you have to say is an E, even though it's a lowercase. The epidemiological.
Epidemiological, whatever.
There you go.
Yep, so that's that stupid English language fucking us in the ass again.
That's good stuff.
Going back to it, they have a report. And so, Hannah, you can ask me, because you did earlier, you forgot to ask me, why the hell would Chris look up this report?
Well, the big thing is, like, Hooker, he one of the arguments that he gives for, like, okay, well, we need to add this sin tax. We need to put, because alcohol is a deterrent, or it's a detriment to society. It's bad. Hooker says he doesn't believe, or he doesn't drink himself. He doesn't believe it's a good thing. He's seen all the horrible things that it does. But he also says that it's like chaos out there on the roads. It's terrible. And that we need to just step in and we need to change what's going on. I'm paraphrasing, obviously. He doesn't scream that much like Trump.
He doesn't, but he says exactly this. He says, if you think all the traffic accidents that are alcohol related and the deaths that occur as a result of that, I think it's obvious that something needs to be done.
Yeah, so he's basically saying that, this is a fear campaign, right? Oh, this is bad out there. It's terrible out there. You should support me because bad things are happening. Well, we've heard those kinds of campaigns from a lot of politicians in the past. I'm initially distrustful of it just because I don't see it happening everywhere. I've been driving a whole bunch. So what do we have? We have to look at statistics. What is going on out there?
And before we look at the statistics, there's another person called Michael Tobias of the Michigan Alcohol Policy Promoting Health and Safety.
What is it with these people and these names?
They do. They have to have these extended names to be like, I'm the Duke of
I feel like
Everington.
Jerry Seinfeld. What is it with these guys and these names? What the hell?
Exactly. He says the main reason we are doing this is because we want to save lives, reduce alcohol and other drug-related harm. All right, so fine. If that's your base premise, I can applaud this, and I think I have clapping here somewhere. Oh, here it is. Oh, I'm clapping for you. Good job. I agree with you. Let's reduce this.
Nobody's going to say no to that. Like, we want to add. We want to increase alcohol-related death. Are you kidding me? Like, that's just such a generic bullshit politics saying to say. He's like, I want to stop people from dying in a car. Yeah, well, so does everyone else. That is irrelevant to the whole situation because of the statistics. What are the statistics?
Exactly. And so his whole point is, he's like, well, I'm not going to increase the taxes on anybody who doesn't drink. Okay, fine. So it's only those of us who do drink. And we, on this show, we drink just a little bit. A little bit. So I looked up this report, right? Because this report is blasted on this website. I mean, it's literally here. It's literally under one of the statistics here. And so if you want to look these up, you can look it up. And they have tons of statistics on this website, actually. And I actually found this is a very good website for the most part.
Yeah.
I did not go through the marijuana thing because I probably would get angry and it would derail this.
We don't want him to punch his
segment.
screen.
Yep.
Don't punch your computer.
But they have quite a few different discussions and different articles on here about this. And they talk about different reports and how you can look at the different data. So this report right here is called the Michigan
Epidemiological Profile.
Exactly. And so I looked through it and I was like, okay, so let's go through this. Let's have this conversation,
Because everything's so bad out there, right? It's horrifying.
It's so
it's
horrible.
A murder show. It's Friday the
God.
13th and Nightmare on Elm Street all rolled into a nasty,
it almost
bloody
feels
burrito.
like, it's like that. Or it almost feels like, they're talking about how many terrorists we have and that we're killed by all these terrorists every year. But in reality, I think more people die of alcohol deaths than terrorism. Ooh, did I say that? Am I too far left on here? Anyway, moving forward.
So be careful, you're going to be jumping on that Mike Pence science. That stuff's dangerous.
Nah, I don't think so, buddy. So, no, because anyway, moving on to the alcohol youth-related incidents, right?
Yeah, this is the whole point of this whole thing, right? We need to stop these deaths.
Yeah, I disagree. I think that we could talk about the issues with the adults, too, because adults do make up more drivers than youth. But in reality, we want the youth are the ones that probably cause more accidents.
Well, the 18 to 24 male demographic, right? The bullheaded, just out of teenager, early college male that's like, I am immortal and nothing can destroy me. Like, that's going to be a dangerous section of the driving populace.
And you're right, but the best thing about this PDF that we have, and you can get the actual statistical numbers from this, unlike some of the gun-related things that we talked about, where they took the numbers and made their own charts from it. They didn't use the actual charts from the statistics they got. They had to make their own to make... Anyway, you can go back and listen to our gun segment 2 episodes ago. Make sure you give Stu a lot of love. Going forward, this tells you what the indicators are and what the data is. They tell you where they get it from, how they get it, all of that. And if you go to a different site that's linked to this, and again, we'll have links in the description, you'll be able to find where the statistics come from, and you can download them and manipulate them to your heart's desire.
Yeah, most of the resources and the numbers are coming from the Michigan Department of Health and Human Services. Like those that's their main source.
Yep. And so they talk about where the percentages are. So you would think, according to Hooker here, that we would have an increase.
Everything's going up.
Everything's
going up.
So this article, and I'll agree that these numbers are a little dated. They're not...
Well, 2015.
I don't know.
Whoa,
2015,
that's so long ago.
You're right. And a lot of the numbers are from 2013. So we are 3 years behind. But unless we've seen a spike, and he would have to demonstrate a spike, I can safely say the injury rate has dropped 59% between 2004 and 2013 among youth from alcohol-related crashes. 33% drop in deaths among youth between 2004 and 2013. Now, you can sit here and tell me
that is terrible.
How that's bad. That's good. So, and maybe I'm getting ahead of myself a little bit because we've already done this, but if you look at this and you look at all these numbers and these statistics, and we move on to the next alcohol consumption rate, right, of those who entered treatment because of alcohol abuse, it's dropped almost 20 points.
So these are like mandated people, though. Like this, as far as I can tell, this is like, okay, you've been ordered, do you need assistance, or that there's like you've been admitted into a program.
Yes.
And then you actually show up. That's the question. That's the way it's written. I'm not 100% certain.
I'm not going to agree
with
you on whether they showed up or not. But this is people that have been admitted into a program for some reason or other, whether it's voluntary or involuntary. We've seen a decline in people who need treatment. Yeah. But if you go to the next statistic in youth, and again, we're only talking about youth, they talk about alcohol consumption and binge drinking. And it has slowly decreased from 44% down to 28%.
That's
and binge from
regular
27 to 16. Yep. So we've seen a decrease on both sides. We've seen a decrease in drinking. And I'll admit, they're only 95% accurate according to what they say, right? So they're not 100%.
Yeah, it's not 6 sigma. It's not 99.99999.
Yeah. So we've seen a decrease. We've seen consumption decrease. Then if we moved on to adults, I bet we'd see the same thing. What do you think, Candy? Do you think we're going to see the same thing in adults?
You keep scrolling fast enough that all I'm seeing is downward trends. So I'm going to guess, yeah, we're looking at adults being smarter, adults being better educated, adults being a little more cautious at the $10,000 something DUI bill in the state here. This I mean, these are deterrents that are all existing. 5 cents on a beer can. That's not what's keeping me away from that. Cops shooting me when I'm in the car and I'm not being completely cooperative.
There you go.
That'll keep my ass out of a freaking bar. So, I mean, these are things that we're looking at across the board. We got some adult numbers that are actually going down too.
So we've seen a 37% decrease in serious accident-related injuries in adults and a 21% decrease in deaths. So we are seeing it decrease.
It's
right?
better. It's better out there, even though the media tells you that everything is horrible and the Republicans are telling you that it's chaos and murder in the streets.
So we're seeing this decrease, right? And my whole point is, okay, so you want to pour money into this. And I'm not anti-tax, not in any way, shape, or form. I'm not even anti a 250% tax increase, because technically they have not raised taxes since 1963 or 1966, one of the two. I don't disagree with raising the taxes. I disagree with that large increase unless you're going to give us a justification. Give me a reason. What are you going to do for me? Right? And so if we lived in lean manufacturing world and you were to go, hey, I'm going to increase this 244%, somebody's going to go, okay, sure. What is it going to do to us? And somebody else is going to go, well, look, when this company does this and increases, and when this company does this and increase, they see a decrease in sales 3 years later. Because somebody else comes in, because the capitalistic market, and sells it for 50% cheaper. It might be a little shittier, but hey, they're getting it for a discount, and that's what some people buy on. It's all based on statistics of economics inside of the business world. And they teach classes on this. They teach classes. I took a class or two, actually, on this when I was going for my degree. They talk about this, and they talk about how you can present your business and where you want to fit within that economic model, right? And so, fine, you want to increase 244%. Now, you're going to tell me how much of that number that's already decreased you're going to decrease because of the funds you're going to put into it. So if you think about it this way, if you're like, hey, I implemented the $10,000 bill for DUI, that's decreased it, right? So now I'm going to pour more money. I'm going to pour another $5 million, and we're going to decrease your driving rate of 20% down to 10%. I would go, hey, all right, is that worth it for me? That gives me a way to quantitate it, right? I can actually visualize and try and see, hey, if I decrease this much, okay, so this many lives are worth this much money. Yep, I agree with that. That the humanist in me would say yes on that. But if you're going to say, hey, I want to take $1 million out of your pocket, but we're only going to save one life, I'm going to be like, what the fuck are you talking about? That one life is, there's no way you can predict the probability like that. I guarantee you can't do that. And so there's none of that. Tom Hooker, that representative of Byron Center, is not using statistics to his benefit.
Well, he's not using them as a proper justification for his bill. Like, he should not be saying that it's terrible out there unless you want to go the route of the argument, kind of contrary to the utilitarian argument that you just gave, that one life, saving that one life is worth all of the extra added benefit, or the added cost. That's enough. And so, as a conservative religious person, I would say he probably would agree with that argument, that just add anything on there if you can save any one person. That would be an argument that he would make. But you're never going to get to a perfect society. You're never going to get the numbers that you're looking for. We're reducing it. Everybody's becoming a little bit smarter when it comes to the statistical analysis of this situation. So, I mean, let's face it. We're not going to... I don't think we're going to get the slippery slope that you suspect when it comes to, a little bit of a capitalistic craziness for a little bit of a tax. I think this tax is, like you said, over time, it's about somewhat sort of justified for an increase. And I think the percentage is throwing the proportion out of
You're right,
weight.
But if they can't justify it, if they can't justify what they're going to spend the money on, I just can't
it has to be
it.
completely justified. That's the only caveat that I have to this entire situation.
That's
I'm
'cause you're a
comfortable
Trump
with paying a little more, but I have to have it spelled out that it's going to stay secular, that it's not going to get into the weird and mushy woo-woo stuff for helping people, that we're going to stick to the sciences, like the new stuff that we talked about a couple of weeks ago with the woman who was talking in the Detroit area about the new recovery programs that aren't 12-step bow down to the divine authority type situations, because we know that those types of things are relatively unsuccessful when it comes to overall stuff, because we have new information, we have new psychology to help these people learn. And that's, if they're going to say that we're going to look at it to new psychology, new science to help people recover if they have issues, then I'm okay with this. So, like, I like the tax, and I also don't like the tax like you want. More specification, that's what I would also like as well.
And I would agree. But I don't approve of a 244% tax increase. Sorry, Hannah. I know you're Trumpish and you want that. I don't approve it. I don't think business should have to absorb it. I don't think the taxpayer should have to absorb it. And I don't think that we have good enough systems to help people recover and keep them out of jail. But we'll be back with more Cellar Door Skeptics to talk about Apollo and why Gary Johnson and Chris Tanner can't pronounce it. We'll be right back with more Cellar Door Skeptics.
Hey guys, this is Wyatt Mathers from the Atheist Avengers podcast. You are listening to the Cellar Door Skeptics. Prepare for the revolution.
Hi, this is Dan, Ryan, and Matt with the Godless Revolution podcast. We've had a lot of great guests on this show, such as Russell Glasser, Dan Arrow, Brian Fields, David Silverman, Doug Mesner, a.k.a. Lucian Greaves, and Joey Kirkman, whom we love a lot. We've also had a lot of really cool local guests. And we're a podcast that likes to fight for the separation of church and state and against anti-skepticism of all kinds. You should give us a listen, because if you don't, you're going to be really sad. Make your ears happy. Listen to the Godless Revolution podcast.
If you guys like what you're hearing on Cellar Door Skeptics, please consider sponsoring us on our Patreon page. Our goal at Cellar Door Skeptics is to help promote more science, skepticism, secularism, and humanism in the world. We want to create better content for our podcast and for you, the listener, all while trying to help promote local activism. We're going to strive to make better podcasts, and I'll tell you what, we're even going to contribute some of the proceeds to charity. So please join us over at Patreon.com/Cellar Door Skeptics to make sure that you sponsor us for as little as $1 an episode. Thank you guys so much, and prepare for the revolution.
This is Deborah McTaggart from Beyond the Trailer Park, and you're listening to Cellar Door Skeptics.
Look into the sky once again and wonder why I'm completing these cynics and even in my life. I've never seen it coming through the demons that I summon like a legion by the dozen. I don't know what I'm becoming. I've seen the lights of horizons you may never know. I've seen the gates of hell sometimes. I'm afraid this
Welcome back to Cellar Door Skeptics. And I remember to unmute this time so we don't have to redo a whole segment. Welcome back to Cellar Door Skeptics. I love that band. And that band, we had an interview with him, and we were one of the first. And not that I care whether we were the first or not, but I had a very great conversation with Shannon about his deconversion and his moving away from atheism. And the Order of Elijah is a great band. You should go check them out. We will post their links in the description. We love Shannon, and we think you should do it.
Well, it's awesome. Like I'm actually like online regularly, and Shannon just shows up in my feed all the time. He just announced that he is now a psychology major at his university, and so I had to share a GIF of somebody flipping a table and swearing because the engineering department was upset because we're obviously more science-y and stuff. So we always used to have the battle with the guys in psychology and engineering and then biology. Always like, oh, my side's better.
Yeah, I'll make sure to tag the David Teach Out in this for you. So.
Oh, yeah, bring it on, Teach Out, your dirty Seattle coffee.
So before we move into the last segment about Gary Johnson and Aleppo, because, yes, that's how I'm going to pronounce it.
There's nothing between the two P's.
There's
it's just
nothing,
Aleppo,
I'm
dude.
going to say Aleppo because that's how I do things around here. But before we get into it, we want to remind everybody that we will be on Saturday night at 5 p.m. Eastern, and we'll post links for this up on Thursday and Friday. We'll spam the shit out of everybody. But we're going to be on a streamathon to help raise awareness for cancer. And so make sure you go over, throw donations at them, share their links, do anything you can to help raise awareness. And real quick, we're going to play what Dustin has put together for us so that you can all find us on the 24th.
The Atheist Nomads are hosting a 12-hour streamathon from 1 p.m. to 1 a.m. Mountain on Saturday, September 24, 2016, to raise money for the Leukemia and Lymphoma Society's Light the Night Walk. Dustin is walking for his mom, who survived Hodgkin's lymphoma nearly 35 years ago, and Lauren is walking for her uncle, who was lost to leukemia, and aunt to lymphoma. Both are walking as part of the Treasure Valley Coalition of Reason team. The funds raised will be going to help patients pay for the ridiculously expensive treatments. Go to atheistnomads.com/live for more details and links to where you can donate. And yes, there will be a drinking game.
So there will be a drinking game, Hannah. So make sure you come over to my house.
Man.
Because it'll be a drinking game. So anyway, we're going to talk about Aleppo And whether Gary Johnson...
I can't take you seriously when you say it that way.
I'm going to.
It's like listening to the parents and Charlie Brown.
No, that's you when you get on your Trump horse. Because you and Dan Carlin don't mix. Because you're like, I'm fringe. And Dan Carlin's like, I'm fringe, but I hate Trump because it's like eating nails. And you're like, I love to eat nails. Who feed them to me? Because that's how you are.
Okay.
You do. You and Trump are like in bed together.
Yeah, I want to run my hair through his fuzzy hair and yank that shit out.
He doesn't
the
have
roots.
fuzzy hair.
Are you kidding me? It looks like he raped a squirrel.
What?
It's just a puff
All right.
ball
See,
of
now
death
you're
on top
moving
there.
the goalposts because you don't want to actually talk about Syria and Gary Johnson. Maybe you're a Gary Johnson supporter. I don't know. So Gary Johnson, the former governor of New Mexico and the Libertarian presidential nominee, has decided that he's going to answer a question about what is Aleppo.
Well, they didn't say it to them that way. They said, what is Aleppo? Or they had a question about Aleppo. And his response was, what is Aleppo? In basically his defense, he thought it was some kind of acronym, was one of the explanations that he gave. And, I mean, okay, I guess. There's a ton of really, really important stuff out there they need to be on top of, but let's face it, Syria's second largest city and one of the biggest sieges of multiple militants and rebel regimes fighting in the streets, that's a pretty big deal when it comes to being someone who's going to be in charge of your foreign policy pretty soon. So that's why everybody just lit him up for this being a big deal.
Yeah, and maybe because he doesn't read CNN, maybe that's why, Hannah. I mean, in all fairness, CNN has a expose where they talk, what is Aleppo? Is that better? Do you feel that I said it that way?
I feel more self-justified.
Okay. All right, good. So, Aleppo in Syria, they talk about it's the epicenter of refugee crisis, right? It's one of the major fighting points within the Middle East. And we talk about this because it's a very important military, I don't want to call them a pawn or a piece in the war game, but they are.
It's a goal for all the groups involved.
Exactly.
So the group that gets it, that wins it, like that's a goal they win. So like if the military regimes, if Assad's regime and his associates take over, then the refugees and all of the rebels are like, we've lost that goal. What can we do now besides fighting for some other goal? Like having that golden prize at the end of a battle of a war, that's a needed necessity when it comes to certain types of things, when it comes to like fighting for something. And so if you lose that, like that's what Aleppo is. It's this goal. It's like people win, and they don't care if they reduce the entire city to rubble and utter destruction.
Yeah.
As
and
long
this
as
has
they
been
win
one
it.
of my issues with the Obama administration is because he has allowed a lot of drone strikes in Syria, in Afghanistan, and all these other remote areas in third world countries, right? Because they're taking out terrorists, but they're killing innocent people. There's more innocent people, I think, that were killed than were killed on 9/11. And I know that's very inflammatory to say and anti, United States, but for fuck's sake, we're killing innocent people. We fucking are. We're overseas killing innocent individuals.
We've blown up multiple buildings that they had the Doctors Without Borders inside. Like, there's been a bunch of really, really bad snafus when it comes to our logistics in the military. Just like, civilian deaths. To me, there is no justification for collateral damage. I don't care what anybody says. There is no justification for it. We are smart enough. We have smart technology. We have really, really great stuff. If there is a family of 4 of refugee migrants right next to an ISIS leader, I'm sorry, that ISIS leader doesn't die that day. That ISIL leader doesn't die that day. I don't care. That's not okay to me. And so, like, we talk about, like, we've mentioned it actually a couple of times, is the utilitarian perspective when it comes to the benefits of the majority outweigh the minority. When it comes to warfare and stuff like that, like, these are incendiary things that shouldn't be happening. And I actually, like, one of the biggest things I have a problem with the way the United States foreign policy is set up with these attacks in support of, regimes in Aleppo or whatever, is we're killing innocent people.
Yeah. And that's the big thing here, right? We want to keep the world safe. We want to keep our people safe. What do we have to do? Do we really need to go over them, bomb them? Well, we can't take back what we've done. We can't take back the Bush administration. Hell, if we actually went back to Vietnam, for fuck's sake, my father-in-law was in Vietnam and he didn't want to go. In Vietnam, they had all these. They were shoving kids with guns and aiming them at soldiers. What do you think the soldiers trained to do? Shoot people with guns, right? That kid's aiming a gun at me. What are you going to do? That is dirty warfare, right? Now, we're now evolved. We now have all this technology, and yet we can't put our own technology to use. We can't, instead of funding millions and billions of dollars into putting troops overseas, why don't we invest that same amount of money to keep people safe? Chelsea, New York is a good example. We didn't have the intelligence. We have to get into the discussion about where the safety comes from, right? Do we need to give up more rights to remain more safe? We should have that conversation sometime. Tonight, that's not it, because we're not being bombed. We're not losing, thousands of people like Syria is. And this is, here we go. You know what he says? He double downs on his own theory, right? He double downs and he says, well, why don't we join hands with Russia? Because we can end the conflict. It's like, hold on, Russia wants to kill gay people.
Well, we just
did.
Did.
What's wrong with you? Like,
yeah.
Russia's not here. They're not a humanitarian interest. They're authoritarian interest.
Well,
what is wrong with you?
I mean, he's a Republican with the bong. He's a libertarian. like that's how that works. But I mean, I will never stop saying that either, because I mean, really, to me, that's what he is. Like the stuff that his history of in New Mexico, whatever. I mean, he really is. He's a Republican. And we look at joining hands with the Russians. We just had a ceasefire. They just had with the Syrians and with everybody else involved. The United States, the Syrians, Russia, the rebel groups. Everybody said, "Okay, we're going to do this." It lasted like 7 days. We had a huge convoy of medical and food and all kinds of really great stuff. And the Assad regime said the rebels were shooting at us. We completely ended the ceasefire. Everybody has to die now. And they just started attacking full on. And then what did the United States do yesterday? They flew over a bombing raid, and they made it even worse. They made it worse. And the ceasefire is basically completely and utterly over. And we haven't talked with Russia. Russia hasn't released anything. Like, all these things are happening in regular real time, and it's just bad stuff.
And we're going outside the UN, and that's my bigger problem personally. Yeah. But that's another goalpost moving discussion, because we could spend an hour having that conversation.
We could have days talking about Aleppo and Syria and ISIL versus ISIS.
And going back to the article, so they kind of said, do you really think that foreign policy is so insignificant that somebody who's running for president shouldn't even know what Aleppo is, and whether Aleppo is something it's important, and if it's not, why not? And he says, no, I understand Aleppo, and I understand the crisis that is going on. But when we involve ourselves militarily, when we involve ourselves in humanitarian issues, we end up with a situation that in most cases is not better, and in many cases ends up being worse. I agree with him on that statement. I think that's a cover-up for not understanding what's going on, but I actually agree with that statement. We should not be as hands-on as we are. We should work with the world courts. We should go closer to that one world, antichrist, government, right?
Yeah.
But he does. The best thing about this, though, and I'll give Gary Johnson credit, and in a minute I want to get into the briefings and intelligence information, right? And where your campaign can buy you. But in all fairness, he does a follow-up interview where he basically says, not remembering or identify a Pepelo. I'm guilty of that, right? He says, I understand the significance of Syria. I understand what's going on. Genuinely, believe me, no one is taking this more serious than I, and I feel horrible. I have to give him props. He apologized, right?
Well, yeah, he at least manned up to it.
And he's acknowledging it. He's not trying to cover it up. He's not trying to lie. He's not trying to use the major news outlets to change.
Well, Trump never had bankruptcy, right?
Yeah, Trump never. I have a video that says otherwise. But in all fairness to what Gary Johnson's talking about, and this does not make me a Gary Johnson supporter, so don't paste this on the wall. Don't come over to our site and be like, oh, look, Tanner Kid, he's just a goddamn Johnson supporter.
I'm going to call him out in a second as soon as your rant's over with here.
Yeah, okay, Trump supporter. And so I'm not a Gary supporter, but I can at least acknowledge when I see a genuine human who has made a mistake, who may have made an honest mistake because he didn't understand the importance of everything that's going on. And Hannah, how about this? Let's look at it this way, right? How much money does Clinton have? How much money does Trump have? How much money are they pouring into the campaigns? How much more publicity and corporate sponsorship did both of them get? right? They can afford to hire more people. They can afford to hire people that can disposition them on different issues. So now, I'll be honest.
Gary Johnson's staff is like 18 guys in a van.
He probably does. But how he missed this is beyond me. I'll be honest, especially for somebody that runs on a very anti-foreign policy person. He's very anti-war, which I agree with. But I don't think he understands global politics very well, personally. But this amplifies what I believe. He's just bleeding me into my bias right here, because he doesn't even understand what one of the major sources of Syria's trouble have been, and would have been a major war-torn issue for for decades now, right? And we have to at least look at and say, well, what about Clinton and Trump, right? Guess what? They've been debriefed militarily. Has Johnson had that privilege?
Not particularly.
No, he has not. And in all fairness, he does not have the money to be able to hire 50 to 100 people to do research.
All the advisors and everything.
And put reports together and give them special Pareto charts and be like, here, this is an issue you should be concerned about, blah, blah, blah. The other campaigns do. And I'll be honest, campaign finance is a big issue Bernie fought against. And that was one of the big things that drew me to Bernie, was the fact that he aggressively went after this ideal that people should just be able to get money. And what did we cover last week, Hannah? What did we cover last week about fucking fundraisers, right?
Yeah.
We went after fundraisers in the Clinton campaign because they're over $100,000 a fucking head.
Yeah, no.
They're being hosted by millionaire celebrities.
The Rothschilds have no place in my politics of the future. Well, the only place that I will call him out on it basically, back to Gary Johnson here, is he calls out, he says, when we get into these humanitarian issues, they usually end out badly. Well, I will argue that the United States has not gotten into any of the conflicts that we've gotten into since the World Wars, since World War II, that were genuinely humanitarian. If you look at the United States history when it comes to foreign policy through the entirety of Latin Americas, through almost everything they did in Colombia, our humanitarian aid in Turkey, when it comes to our foreign policy, we were basically helping the Turks genocide against the Kurds, the Kurdistan. Like, this stuff still happens. Like, they've been battling against Turkey, and the Kurds have been fighting each other because they were done shooting at people in Syria. Like, these types of, Gary Johnson calls it humanitarian things. This is what I like to call imperialism. The United States is basically trying to essentially move all the chess pieces where it wants them to go. And when we have what we want, then we take the resources we want, and we've got our basic solution. None of these things have been genuine humanitarian issues. If they were, and they basically melted down and turned into this horrible situation, then I would be surprised. I would genuinely be surprised. But I cannot call our intervention in these countries, in Iraq and in Syria, humanitarian in any way, shape, or form. Yes, there are tons of people who really need our help, but we're not there to help them. We're there to help our best interests when it comes to local, regional, political power, oil, resources, or whatever. And so, like, his assumption that it's humanitarian, I would say, is incorrect.
Yeah. And I would agree with you, because when we look at why people want to capture Syria, right, and we have Al Jazeera, we have a great interview, and I'll be honest, I've never heard this website in terms of something I read regularly, but I think this is something I'm going to start reading regularly, especially for the show.
They just killed American Al Jazeera, but the Al Jazeera itself is a pretty good website.
And maybe I'm glad you've heard of it. This is not something I've ever used before, and to me this almost feels like something we should be using. And they actually have Google Earth pictures of 4 years, and you can see the destruction. I mean, it's horrifying. It's disgusting. It's like, think of it this way: would you want to go in and bomb Michigan? Right? Take Michigan, and let's just take a quarter of Michigan and continually bomb it and use it as central refuge.
Well, let's talk about Dearborn.
Yeah, there you go. If you took Dearborn and you did to this what's been done in Aleppo, we would be calling for like extreme regimes. We might even elect Trump if he was willing to eliminate the borders just because of the amount of terrorism that has happened.
Well, that would be, we'd be talking Geneva, Switzerland. We'd be talking world court trials here. Like,
yes.
The reason I mentioned Dearborn, for anyone that doesn't know, Michigan in Dearborn, the city of Dearborn, has one of the highest Islamic and Muslim concentrations in the entire country. There's a couple other places, one in Ohio, one in Minnesota, But like these places are, regional centers where people gravitate from a lot of these refugees situations from the Middle East. They come here, and these are the places they go. There's an infrastructure, and the language is there, so they can come there. So essentially saying that, like, would you be okay if we just bombed the shit out of that city and turned it into utter rubble? I mean, rubble. Like if you look at the images of the majority of Syria now, but like Aleppo specifically, you can see the areas where the bombing has been happening, and you can see where it's been encroaching more and more towards Assad's forces. It's horrifying to see what a historically beautiful city has turned into. I mean, these people are blowing up their own mosques. Like there are Islamic religious sites that are being just turned into dust. And it's a surprise, really, that they actually go that far.
And in the Al Jazeera article here, there's a question that comes about that talks about taking territory back. And to kind of bring it back around to what you were saying earlier, Hannah. And this is, in my opinion, this is the most important question in this whole article. And they ask, is regime fighting to take over Aleppo, or is it just to gain more territory back for the negotiation table, right? And so let's look at humanitarian efforts. If we went in and tried to do something humanitarianly to stop all the violence, would we be doing it to stop the violence, or would we be doing it for the same reason the rebels want to take it? The rebels want to take it because they want to fragment different infrastructures. Same way with the regime wants to go in and take it back because they want to get rid of rebel fractures. They want to create a schism, a split, so that they can have a position of strength. And as the strategy unfolds, all these little different pockets will remain on the ground, but they'll be so divided and disconnected that one after another won't be able to take the regime, and it'll be basically a ceasefire case. And that's the funny thing here, is that the Syrian government doesn't want to gain back territory. They don't care about it. And that's sad, because that's not humanitarian. So they're looking at this on a pure base level. So if we took Maslow's pyramid, they're looking at the bottom basement level of that pyramid, because it's preoccupied in proving that the tide has turned and that there's more armed rebellion struggles than there is the regime. And nobody's interested in sitting at the table. Nobody's interested in negotiations.
This is one of the reasons why the United States has had such a bad representation when it comes to dealing with Assad in Syria. Because the United States has basically said that Assad is a terrorist. He's a humanitarian's right offender, and he's horrifying. And so we refuse to really do any kind of negotiations with him. So we've been funding and supporting and helping rebel forces to take over and essentially kick him out, much like we've done with Egypt when we just basically got rid of Gaddafi and any of those kinds of things. So like this is the chess pieces that I was talking about earlier. Like the United States foreign policy is just a manipulative little thing that gets money and puts guns and stuff in other people's hands and the people and the regimes that they want to move around. Well, a lot of times these aren't pro-democracy. Like we hear the spreading democracy abroad. That was one of the big Bush campaigns. They want to spread democracy abroad, spread the American way of dissenting from the government and still being able to be functional in society and not be essentially taken away and thrown into a cave somewhere. But a lot of the regimes that we support tend to be really authoritarian as long as they become a United States client state. And Syria is one of those situations that people have been talking about years before this situation happened, is that Syria is going to be a hotbed of problems. And this is exactly the case. We refuse to do any kind of negotiations with Assad, and we've been supporting a regime change. When regime change do what? They create power vacuums. So as soon as Assad's gone, we have even more rebel factions battling each other. And it'd be another Iraq all over again when it comes to destabilizing an entire region. And so, like, all of these things are happening all the time, and we see these repeats over and over of situations where our political and our foreign policy, they're just failing. And I'm not comfortable with continuing our presence in Syria. So I really like the idea of getting the hell out of there and letting these groups figure out their way. But we've destabilized them so much that we kind of sort of have some responsibility for the shit that's going on there right now. And a lot of other places too.
Exactly. And that's the sad thing here. That's the sad thing is we don't know where to draw the line, because if we support the regime, we're supporting the democratic government, right? But it's not. We all know it's not democratic. We all know. Yeah, exactly. We all know that it's a horrible regime, just like, basically like Saddam Hussein and his regime was, right? They were democratic in their authoritarian way. And the new uprising regime here that we have to talk about is ISIL, ISIS, is other small rebel fractions, and we know they're just as bad, if not worse. And so there's no degree drawing line. They're all belligerents. They're all running across this chasm. They're all talking about how can we control this area. So we can either step in and intervene. We can either step in and create a stop to this whole thing, or we're going to get stuck being in the middle like we are. And we're going to get stuck bombing and killing innocent people. And if we're going to go kill people, let's just go get it done and over with. And let's just implement American imperialism, because if we really think that that's the only way to go, then what else are we going to do? And in all fairness, Gary Johnson's so opposed to American imperialism, he would rather watch these people suffer and die than to go intervene. And he has a legitimate argument. Unfortunately, he fucks his whole point up by not understanding what Aleppo is, by not understanding how Syria affects America, by not understanding how we can't just pull out and disappear.
It's too simplistic.
Exactly. So we should be working with the UN. We should be working to benefit these causes as a world nation versus an individualistic, imperialistic, authoritarian nation that the United States seems to be, where we'd be more interested in yelling at a black football player for not fucking pledging allegiance than we are about Aleppo. Thank you very much. Have a good night. And remember, like us on Facebook and follow us next week for our 1 year anniversary. Have a good night, everyone.
Of Cellar Door Skeptics. Check us out on Spreaker. CellarDoorSkeptics.com.